And Jamestown had its first professional team in the Pony League,
Mm-hmm.
and that was in Celeron.
Yes, I
And-
remember going there when I was a child.
Do you have any recollections of Celeron, the park?
Yes, quite a bit. I remember the grandstand because I went with my grandfather every Sunday because what got me started was they had a pony ring.
Ah,
And if I went to the ball game with my grandfather, who raised me incidentally, I could, after the game was over, then we could go I could ride in a pony ring. That's what got me started in baseball. I absorbed it from being there. Because my grandfather was an avid baseball.
Was he?
He went to any of the leagues. He was gone every Sunday. He went to the World Series in New York City back in those days. He went to every World Series that was, say, in New York or whatever, which there was a lot of it in that day.
exactly.
He bought that land from the Curtis farm, which now is where the college is,
Tell me about that.
and gave that to the city.
Your grandfather's name was?
Herbert Aiken.
Herbert Aiken.
Everett Aiken. He's the one, H.E. Babcock from Ithaca started what was GLF, is now gone down to Agway.
Mhm.
But they started what was the GLF. Those two men.
I'll be darned.
I don't remember the amount of acreage, and I'll tell you, he was always, I never found that out until later years, and that he had bought that land and given it to the city.
And that ultimately is where the stadium is.
It's where the stadium is today. It was from the old Curtis farm.
I'll be darned.
He paid $2,500 for it.
For all the land?
Not all the land. I would say where most of the buildings are and where the park is itself, where the ballpark is itself. But he never told or talked about it, and I didn't know it till later years. And they put a piece in the scorecard. And do you know that when I didn't read that for months and didn't realize what it was about him buying that land and donating to the city. Now, I'll tell this is off the record.
Sure.
I was at I was at the office quite a lot, and there was a college kid in there, and he'd come in to see about something, and he'd turn to me, and he, snotty rip, said to me, "Aren't you glad that we allow you to use this stadium?" Boy, for a minute, I kept my mouth shut, though. God, I was mad. Sure. If it wasn't for my grandfather, it might not be there.
Exactly.
When we went to get money from people solicited for the stadium being built, I took it must have been a horse, and I collected the first $50 in our neighborhood
I'll be darned.
on a horse.
How'd you do that? Did you just...
Well, my grandfather told me I better, I imagine. You know, he said, go out and see if you anything, and I did get donations of $50. See, Daddy Burt was on the gas ration, and so he didn't dare, he wanted to go, and I said, well, why don't we drive one of my horses down? And we drove it down, we found an old barn over on that side street there, and we put him in there, and then I'd go back home with that horse. We wouldn't do it today, there'd be so much traffic.
Now, how did it work? You had a horse?
Yeah, we had a horse and a buggy, and we came to the ballpark. And so he could go to those games.
So
he didn't feel guilty on using his ration stamps for gas.
This was your grandfather, right?
Yeah, I was raised by my grandfather.
Okay, you and your grandfather would come to the games
Yeah,
in a horse and buggy.
Yeah.
How long was that?
Well, by this time the stadium was built there, and but he just didn't feel because he was on that board that he should be using those gas stamps to go to baseball games.
On the rations board.
Broke all records.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what they were, but funny part was during the time that there was rationing, we had all kinds of people. But it sort of dropped off there for a while. It was a struggle.
You had season tickets for a long period of time, didn't you?
Yeah. Then I was on the board of directors right from the start, and for a short time I was vice president.
Hmm.
But I had some awfully good friends in Palladino and all those Carlsons and those people. They were real nice people. And I was the only woman, with one exception. There was a woman whose family owned that big canning factory area in Dunkirk, Red something.
Red Wing.
Yeah, she was on the board. And she was a smart woman, too. Avid baseballer. Mercy. She was there, kids and all. And she sat down and she had a box down in front. It was, you brought back a lot of it that I had forgotten. Yeah, I've had a wonderful life. Brought up by grandparents who doted on me. I couldn't ask for a more happy childhood than I had.